Today, I'm going to cover a fundamental aspect of Pokemon that isn't really explained much at all by the game itself. Understanding this mechanic will bring your Pokemon battling to a whole new level. This mechanic is EVs and IVs. EVs and IVs have been around since the game's inception and are still relevant in modern Pokemon games today. To start, we'll first need to understand what an EV and an IV even is. The simpler of the two to control and understand is an EV. EV stands for effort value, and your Pokemon will obtain EVs every time an opposing Pokemon is defeated. The type of EV you will obtain from a Pokemon is dependent on something called an EV yield. The EV yield corresponds to one of the game's 6 stat values: HP, attack, defense, special attack, special defense, or speed. You can easily find the EV yield of a specific Pokemon by checking online resources such as Bulbapedia. Now that we understand what an EV is and that we can acquire an EV by knocking out an opposing Pokemon, we now can cover how to optimize an EV spread as well as what you can do to assist your EV training. Once you capture a wild Pokemon or hatch an egg, the Pokemon will start with 0 EVs. Every Pokemon can hold a maximum of 510 total EVs, and any individual stat can hold a maximum of 255 EVs. Every 4 EVs raises a stat by 1 point. Since stats are raised in multiples of 4, you can maximize a desired stat by adding just 252 EVs. Most EV spreads will maximize 2 stats and dump the remaining 6 EVs into a third beneficial stat. Because it takes 4 EVs to raise a stat point, only 508 of the total 510 EVs are actually useful. You will always have 2 unused points. A great place to find EV spreads and movesets is Smogon.com. An example we can look at is this Starmie set I am training for the Pokemon Emerald Battle Frontier. As you can see, this moveset maximizes 2 stat values with EV training. The stats chosen for Starmie are special attack and speed. This allows Starmie to be as fast as possible while maximizing its special damage output. The remaining EVs are thrown into HP. To get this desired EV spread, I'll need to knock out Pokemon who have special attack, speed, and HP EV yields. If I want to maximize speed, for example, I can knock out Zubats, who yield 1 speed EV for every knockout. Although knocking out 252 Zubats sounds like a daunting task, there are items and conditions which can speed up this process. The first way to gain EVs easily is by using vitamins. Each vitamin will grant 10 EVs to the vitamin's corresponding stat. You can use a maximum of 10 of each vitamin on a single Pokemon to raise a stat from 0 to 100 EVs. Vitamins are pricey, so in the case of my Starmie, I will actually use Emerald's cloning glitch to easily get more vitamins for free. I have a video on the cloning glitch if you don't know how to do this. The next way to assist your EV training is to use the Macho Brace or the power items introduced in Generation 4. The Macho Brace will double the EVs you gain from a single Pokemon. For example, if I KO a Zubat while holding the Macho Brace, I will gain 2 speed EVs instead of 1. The power items will grant much more additional EVs but are specific to a single stat. For example, if I want speed, I will need the Power Anklet. From Generations 4 to 6, these items grant an additional 4 EVs, and from Generation 7 onward, these items grant an additional 8 EVs to their respective stats. All of these items will greatly speed up your EV training. The last way to increase EV gain is by spreading the Pokerus condition to a Pokemon you are EV training. Pokerus will double your EV gain and will stack with the power items. Despite this, Pokerus is a super rare condition. It is actually more rare than a shiny Pokemon, with only a 1 in 21,845 chance of being generated. The easiest way to get Pokerus would be to find someone willing to trade you a Pokemon with the condition. On the bright side, if you do manage to get a Pokemon with Pokerus, the condition is easy to spread to other Pokemon you already have. Something to keep in mind while doing EV training is that a Pokemon will gain EVs if you are using the Experience Share. However, this Pokemon will only gain the benefits of power items if it is holding one. Also, if you make a mistake while EV training, you can reduce EVs by using special berries. Now that we've covered EVs, it's time to talk about IVs, or individual values. These values are much harder to control than EVs because they cannot be changed. You can think of EVs like lifting weights to get stronger, while IVs are more comparable to having good genetics. Each Pokemon has a predetermined IV value for each of its 6 stats. These values range from 0 to 31, with a perfect 31 value resulting in the highest stat value possible. Each Pokemon game has a different way of checking IVs, however most games have in common that you can pass along desirable IVs by breeding. If you are playing a Generation 3 game, this is way harder to do, but it is still possible by manipulating RNG. This is a really complicated process, but can guarantee you perfect IVs. If you are interested in learning how to do this, I'd check out a YouTuber called blisy, who I will link in the description. Blisy's channel has great guides on how to do this, and is actually how I learned how to do it myself. If you are playing Generation 4 onward, IV breeding is made much easier with the introduction of the Destiny Knot item. This item will randomly pass 5 EVs from the parent Pokemon to the offspring. By using this item, you can easily pass along desirable IVs, especially if you have a perfect 6 IV Ditto. Now that we've covered EVs and IVs, you should have all the knowledge you need to build more competitive Pokemon. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions about EVs or IVs, and I'll be happy to answer them. I hope you find this video helpful. Keep grinding and have yourself a great day.